Hello and welcome back to well, I guess you say the William Grenville show or the Scourge of the Shires. And this is a topic which I'll be talking tonight, which I'm going to be honest has been quite controversial. Um, it's not been sort of well received, and for good reason. For good reason, I propose, and this is a proposition tonight, that the sort of the case for banning X. This is something that's been put forward, and in Britain, in Canada, Australia, and I think also as well New Zealand. Australia's already done this with with people under the age of 16, so children. I'm and I will state this from the beginning. The reason in Britain that this has been proposed is because of um, people using Grok to create naked or nude images, or usually it's bikini images of women and girls, quote unquote, online. I think maybe a Labour politician or some left wing politician has had that happen to. Though I'm not really talking about that because that's just all noise and distraction, and um, to be honest, it's not something which, if we're all honest, it's not something that is in the forefront of those in power in our respective countries that are wanting to do this. Now, I know a few people, and Iron Duke is obviously against this. And this is and I will do a follow-up video, maybe making the case for it, but it's something which I have wrestled with because I'm depending on what sort of day. I will say, and I'll say this now, without X, I wouldn't be here probably on YouTube, and I wouldn't be talking to you. Well, Twitter as it was then, and I wouldn't have found people like Iron Duke, people like Morgoth. It was through social media, Horus, the people on the academic agency Discord right back along, Nathan Hood, people at the Pendragon and the Beowulf Foundation, as well as a whole host of individuals, Beda Britannia or Hitman as he was, and what have you. Yeah, and of course Steve Laws. He used that. He used X as a place to put out the small boat stuff. Though the reason I'm doing this is that Twitter of that era has somewhat long passed. Over the last few years, I found it increasingly, and to the point that now it's increasingly difficult to use X really for anything now. Beforehand, we were quite concealed in our own microcosm. And it wasn't too difficult. We you'd have like a lot of like lefties and on there, and particularly during like the Brexit years, you had a lot of I guess you could say debates and everything, and it still goes on in some places today. But one thing you didn't have was the whole artificial intelligence, and also I've noticed, and I think this has been sort of widely accepted when people look at this, there has been a ridiculous uptake in bots, bot accounts, and what have you. And one thing, and so I've actually got a list here, and I'm going to go off like I've just gone through like a points of my contentions for this. So the first one is AI generated images and videos. Now, in general, at the start of it originally, I was, indifferent. I didn't really have a strong view either way, but now it's just becoming quite annoying. It's becoming quite tedious. And the problem is you've now got and you've had where, real news cycles. Like I remember, um, probably last year, at some point last year, there was, you remember those two female coppers that went round to that person's house and he took a picture of them. One was in a hijab and one was like this short blonde, you know, 3 foot blonde female police officer. Now, while that was sort of doing the rounds on Twitter, there were also people putting out AI generated videos which were just, there for pure rage bait, and it wasn't genuine. It was AI generated police officers who were like, arresting you for um, uh, saying something online, and you can tell with these videos and the way that it sounds. Um, So that was that. And now you've got similar occasions where there have been people on our side of things, friends and what have you, have been caught out in the AI stuff. Now it used to be like footage, footages from different news events that get recycled and rehashed and is then shared about. I've seen this week with the whole Iran story, the protest in Iran. There was footage of riots in Berlin which was doing the rounds again from a few years ago, and saying, "Oh, look what's going on in Iran now." So there's that. Also, with the same sort of slop AI, it comes the slop politics. Um, and it's the one of the things that you've had. Um, and I've noticed. I actually wanted to check this out because this was something that uh, I have screenshots from various like Twitter posts and everything that I've done, in my time. I have like screenshots and everything. That's one thing I like to keep track of. And I looked at like MAGA-based accounts from about, let's say about uh, 7, 8 years ago, during the first Trump presidency and towards its end. One thing I've noticed now, and this is nothing new, and many of you will know this, is the Trump supporter went from being, you know, and genuinely anti-establishment, you could say American nativist, American isolationist, America firstist, whatever we want to describe it, and now it's sort of morphed into this neoconservative, Zionistic propaganda accountist. And through that, all these new accounts are people who will post slot politics, such as, and I hear this, every other day. Europe or Britain, as it's become interchangeable with these people, will say that Britain or Europe is on the verge of an Islamic caliphate, and this is one of the reasons that uh, more recently there's been calls for why they're sort of cheering on Trump trying to take Iceland, saying that it's on the verge of becoming an Islamic caliphate, even though 95% of the population are practicing Lutherans with a mix of Danish and Inuit and mixed race population in that regard. I mean, mixed race. So that's one, and that's the second point. And then from all that sort of slop accounting politics, you have the performative outrage, and that's something you know. You had my famous feud was with that particular cartoonist who discovered, and this is the double-edged sword. Elon Musk, yes, and I know what Iron Duke will be saying. He was the one that put the rape gangs out there. But the thing is, it's what you're using it for. If you're using the rape gangs as part of and at that time he was with Trump, and he was still in the Trump orbit before him and Trump had that falling out. You had the grooming gangs being propelled out there, but it was done under the guises of uh the Islamic takeover of Britain, it didn't have the nuances or even focused on the real scandal here, which was the cover-ups and the reason for the cover-ups. And the reason for the cover-ups being that, well, it was for liberal ideals. That's why it happened. It wasn't so much of a, I mean, it wasn't so much for like they weren't saying um, sort of anything profoundly Marxist or socialist. It was liberal ideals, and it was our own people doing it because of that. And following up the slop accounts that followed Musk in the wake of all this conversation were then posting, the British men are weak and cowards, they didn't do anything. And it was this constant attacking of white English people by these bot accounts and also real accounts, and that particular one cartoonist. And what it did was rewriting the entire um disgraceful period and stain of the histories of grooming gangs in this country. It was rewriting its entire existence because, first of all, it was people in the BNP that put that out there. It was the likes of Nick Griffin, for example, right back along, who first started using it as a main political leader of a political party who started referring to it, and also talking about cover-ups by the Labour Party in particular, along with a whole host of other journalists and people sort of on the ground, like there's Maggie Oliver and what have you, who worked in the local government, who talked about the police cover-up as well, which is also something that's sort of that's overlooked. And so it's the actual I one of the problem I had with that brief period was that, yes, he propelled it, but he propelled a narrative of it that muddied the water. And it muddied the water that it just became another, it's like, imagine a calendar, and each calendar you're a news it's like a news, like a news network, you could say, as the Americans would call it, a news network. And every day you have to have a story, and it's just treated as like another one of stories. And it's not. It's not like a one-day story. This is I mean, socially for Britain, it's probably the biggest story next to mass immigration, and it's intertwined with that. It's intertwined with that. I don't view it as just a flippant, you know, story that can just be talked about in sort of shorthand format, without any care and consideration. It's a very complex uh, set of events of why it happened, but also the details, the actual gritty details of it, is what makes it. I mean, the scandal itself, the actual like rapes and everything, is the worst part of it, but it's the cover-ups and the level of cover-ups and the rationale and the reasoning and the people involved of it is in itself the biggest scandal, because that is what the British state don't want people to focus on. The government in this country don't want us to focus on it, and also by the behavior of a lot of foreign nationals who have talked about it. They also um, Konstantin Kisin, for example, he took his opportunity while interviewing a rape gang survivor to criticize her and on the actual like racial aspect of it. So this is what I'm talking about. That there is actually, it's not just sort of like lazy slopperism. There is like well, I guess you could say, an organization to it. So the other point, and maybe this is, this may just be my timeline, but I'm imagining this is other people's timelines. The Americanization of Twitter, of X, I mean, let's be honest, it's always been Americanized, so this is nothing new under the sun. But one thing I've never really liked about American domestic politics is the whole concept of the blue red state, the blue red divide, and that if you look at American politics, I remember going. You can go back as far as Obama, probably even longer, decades and decades ago. You had I remember first hearing about it when I was a lot younger. I think it was when during the first presidential election with Obama, like back in 2007, 2008, or what have you. Pundits on television were talking about, you know, you got white working class, white collar voters, black voters, suburban voters, and you had like these blocks of people who they can, build alliances and pick and choose from. And maybe, I mean, today, obviously, America has a very, um, you know, I guess you could say a very diverse population now. It's less and less white people, and they're because of that, the that sort of um, societal segregation on politics on a political level has been normalized in America, and it's been, uh, if we are honest, since Trump's election, it has gotten worse. There's very few sort of anything that can really unite the country together, and because of that, and maybe because of that of effect, it's now it's you see it in Britain, you see it in Europe as well. That you have uh, and then this is forgetting the foreign nationals here. You have British people, if you're on the left, on the right, it is like the extreme levels. But also there is that is you know a lot of the talking points from the left in this country is just straight up imported from elsewhere. I mean, a lot of the lawyers, the lefty lawyers that you hear about on your LBC and radios, a lot of them are educated in um, universities, the sort of great law universities of the United States. Um, that our foreign secretary, for example, I believe he was at Harvard, where he picked up a lot of his human rights, civil rights, race identity, grifting practices, and it was brought back to the UK. Particularly the whole civil rights stuff, which has been I mean, it's been a cotton industry in those places for decades now. So you ain't going to change that anytime soon. But I mean, on that point, as Andrew says, there are just more Americans on this side than British people. Now, the other thing, and so I'm going to sort of step away from the politics of it here, is I'm just going to talk about um, the effects is having on people on the right, um, or not even people on the right. Just talk about our friends, us, and what have you. With the constant, um, you know, ever since Elon bought Twitter, and the the formula changed, and the algorithm, you could say, changed. Uh, you're seeing more and more right-wing coded content. Now, if you remember before, a lot of it was quite left-wing coded content. Now, I mean, probably maybe some of you it's half and half, but for me, I'm seeing a lot of more right-wing coded content, and I'm seeing, you know, every now and then I'll see a video of like some, um, some diversity, whether it be in Britain or America. It's usually you see it in Britain as well, um, doing something, acting out, attacking, or some, old footage as I harken back to the, out of date content and then being rehashed, um, or something just been faked like in another country. Um, and what it's doing is it's kind of like doomer posting. It's or doom scrolling or whatever, however you want to call it, and it kills energy. It kills energy by people on our side because it's sort of and you have people these very same accounts that I talk about who are like, see, your country's finished, it's all over, and it's sort of like it's like basking in the sort of hopelessness of it all. And I think I don't. It's almost like it's almost a sort of just like rolling around in pity, and that is a um terrible place to be because it I mean, you're sort of some way sort of playing a victim. You're playing like your own victim card in this, but you're all contained on a social media site. And also, and this is the thing, Steve Laws, we'll bring him up here. Steve, at this moment in time, has been contained on, uh, the Andrew Goldstein podcast circuit. He is being contained. What's happened is, unfortunately, and this is something that this is going to happen to Steve, is he's now being, whether he wanted this or not, I don't think he really wants this, but this is what's happened, is because he's not a politician, he's not really seeking any direct political cause or action at this point, apart from just being a commentator on the remigration, is that he is now publicly having a spat with Tommy Robinson. And the thing though is, at this point in time, uh, I mean, Tommy Robinson is happy for mass migration as long as it's not from Muslim countries. I mean, we've talked about this hundreds, thousands of times. So we all know what Tommy Robinson is and his people, his crowd is. And then like the other people that are like my Ghanaian friend Bob or whatever. And Steve shouldn't be even really communicating with these people. And the trouble is, he's now been contained into some sort of online drama, which dilutes his message. I mean, his message is, it's an absolutist remigration, right? 100%. And I'm not talking about the message here, but I'm just saying the thing is, people will start to know him or find him through, oh, Steve Law's the person who's having spats with um, Andrew Goldstein and Tommy Robinson. Even though I do not think that that is his intention, but that's what he's been contained into. It's why I do think he probably shouldn't have given that interview. Um, shouldn't have gone into the Civnat crowd, because that's what their job is, to contain people like us and him and others, because they are just the enforcers of the regime from a more right wing angle. They keep the extremes, or what they consider the extremes, out. So that is where we stand. And the thing though is, again, that we come back to, and I see, Iron Duke spamming in the chat there about, all this thing about this is where the only place they can be seen. Well, we know Morgoth now. We know Steve Laws now. I mean, he could do a Rumble, he could do a Substack, a Stack. I think for Steve though, he probably shorthand X is here. But what is there left to really gain from this? We had somebody before, who was it? SGG167 said that for him it did a world of good, sort of, coming off X. The thing there is, and this is sort of like the hard. Steve can push at uh the remigration stuff, but at the end of the day, he's now currently he's just being like contained within the Civnat Zionist sort of like circle, and he's sort of been used as this, you know, this new sort of online drama with Tommy. The message is just going to, well, the message is just going to be diluted now. Remigration has already been co-opted. It probably will be co-opted. You'll probably hear Andrew Goldstein saying it for, you know, for people that he doesn't like. You'll probably hear it, uh, maybe in several years' time, reform. His popularity doesn't change. Well, the thing though is, it depends what he sets up. You know, um, he's one voice. He can go around, but the thing though is, he's coming up with terms like remigration. It could be co-opted, and it probably will be co-opted. It's a popular term. I've heard like Austrian, no pun intended here, but I've heard Austrian and German politicians and other European politicians use that term. I don't know what their political persuasion or background is. I'm guessing they're conservative or right wing. Um, but you know, this is it. Where else can he go? As I said, he shouldn't have joined in that interview. But well, am I, Duke? Am I? Because every day, you know, we go on X, we see the latest outrage, we comment on it, we react to it. Another news story happens, and then we move on. It's like rinse and repeat. And I tell you what, when I'm on X enough, you sort of just become sort of sick of all of that. Um, I mean, sorry, not Steve Laws, Rupert Lowe has had some sort of win today with social media, with X over digital ID, or he's managed to sort of hold it back. There's been sort of like a stop on the UK government's plan, so that's definitely a win for him. And he's obviously used the launch of his Restore Britain on X, quite efficiently, which is something. Yeah, he's used it. That's maybe that's one good positive thing from this. But at the end of the day, um, seeing the content that we got on there, seeing the sort of behavior as well, I think it's just rotting the people on the right's brain. I think people on the right are becoming more and more easily rage baited by the left. I think it's become a place where there is no sort of dynamic energy about it. What's the alternative? I don't know. There probably isn't. There's no alternative site at the moment. A lot of the people, and then a lot of the people that that get boosted, who are normally on our side, quote unquote, as I say, are just disaffected liberals. You know, I mean, take like um, you know, even like Lucy Letby. She's been when she's been tweeting recently, she's sort of been like being a soft, like not even really a civ now. It's like a soft liberal position, you know. I mean, as I say, that whole case was ridiculous to start with. You know, she wasn't. She was like just a normal woman who got caught up in some. Well, I don't know. That whole affair is very strange. Yeah, but where did laws? How do you get to YouTube? It was through this site. The whole build up to the conversation and Gold got all his information from like the spats on X here. And if it was banned tomorrow, we'd find a way. We still got Discord. We still got. Um, I mean, we were in the position before where we would get you get banned. I remember my YouTube channel. I used to get like I got like uh, bans talking about the election being the 2020 election and its irregularities. My social media, my ex also got banned for well, it got I got suspended for a set period of time for a similar thing. But the thing though is, um, I'm I'm not 100% convinced that X is doing any good for us. I mean, beyond okay, we can sort of see what Low and Morgoth is doing, but is that price? Is it enough? For everybody to being coerced and like as cattle into these sorts of silly talking points. And also the worst thing is when you see friends who fall for and luckily no one else in chat has actually had this has happened to yet. But when you see people who fall for slop AI and fake stories. Now that is a good question. If X is so good at entertainment, why would I want to ban it? Um, well, I think I honestly still think Labour are morons. I think the British establishment are still there's still a level of incompetency. I think they think if they can destroy. I mean, if I was to guess why they want to ban it, the real reason, I think there is. It's about curtailing American, Trump and MAGA and Elon Musk influence over this country, and I think there is probably more political reasons for that as a way of you know any potential help or assistance they could give to like Low or reform, probably not Low, but reform, I should say, reform itself, Farage and stuff. I think that's why they think they're doing it. But of course, a lot of MAGA people aren't really into Farage at the moment. Um, Particularly Elon. He wanted somebody else. What's utter BS? What that's the reason why Labour are doing it. I think it is I think it is. I think the government is doing it because of MAGA influence. They want, and there's a cynical election ploy here. You know, I mean, it's wrong. It's the wrong assessment that the government's doing because it wouldn't. I don't think it would. It wouldn't change anything on the ground here. We still got GB News and all that sort of stuff. So Reform's still got their platform through that. Facebook. Most of the Reform people are on Facebook. I'm saying that I think that's what the Labour thinking is. It's not my view, but that's what when I look at Labour accounts talking about it, um, like Who was it? It was the um um Owen Jones. I think it was either today or yesterday. I mean, of course, they went through the usual. They're showing images of women and girls and all that sort of stuff in bikinis. But when you actually they drilled down into it, it was well, the reason. They mentioned the American influence as being one, or MAGA influence. So, but I don't. As I say, I think if number one, American influence. What's this? Reform do not depend on X, Steve Laws, Rupert Lowe. What do you mean? Do you what? So what do you mean? Steve Laws and Rupert Lowe and Morgoth don't depend on X? What are you guessing at here? I didn't say what you're saying. Reform. You saying that I'm suggesting reform depends on Lowe and Morgoth. What? Andrew, come that you're not making any sense here. I made it very clear earlier. I said that from the British government's point of view, the Labour establishment lot, and through their own words, they view that one reason is that this is Elon Musk. This is Elon Musk and MAGA, and that what's going on in America at the moment, influence, is what's being utilized through X. I'm making the sort of assertion that that's what they claim is the reason why they want to. I think is one of the main reason they want to ban it. Now they say, well, the reason they want to ban it is because of young women and girls being put in bikinis through Grok. I disagree with that. I don't think that's the real reason. Like many people have pointed out, I believe it is because they think that this would help them politically. So this may just be this is just a Labour ploy that's not working because they're not very, they're incompetent. Also, it's worth noting that America, if I talk about Americanism, most of that influence comes through, it's not even social media, it comes through TV, film, and what have you. So it's, the MAGA influence though, um, I mean, the MAGA influence though, I mean, we got Facebook as well, so yeah. So that's where I sort of stand on it. I do think that, if X was banned tomorrow, let's say, while it would be annoying and frustrating, number one, I think number one, we would still find a way around it in some capacity. We'd have some sort of, I mean, as I say, we got Discord, we got quite a few other sites. Um, we also have, the I think it's sites like Rumble, for example. Until that gets banned. But for me, I don't really have much use for X now, personally. I know someone said earlier that so leave X, but the problem is it's like the energy is all the sort of British right is trapped on X, and that's why it's like this gift and curse at the same time. It's great because we can find out all this information. We can have all the people we know in one place, and we can network and communicate with other people, which is what our opponents do as well, and know that we do. we're very lucky. We're very lucky to what do you mean it's a retarded take? Well, I don't think it's a retarded take. I think what's been retarded is, the endless performative outrage and slop and stories that are being put onto us which are usually half truths or half baked, you know. And let's be honest, I I um yeah, as Mitch says that. I mean, every site is every site is compromised to one side. I mean, I've never used Telegram because of well that reason alone. And also, every time when I did go on there once, it seemed to be people on there seemed to be totally mad. They seem to be totally insane. I do miss the format though of video essays. I do think I do miss that the format of video essays and such, which is a shame because X does now, not like before. It runs that feature where you can stream from here to X, um, and you could have videos, which would have been perfect when back in the day. Well, yeah, but this is what I was talking about, and yeah, yeah, this is what I'm talking about. This is a and don't get too I miss what was it? YouTube used to let you do video replies. Yeah, no, that was a good one as well. Get some pretty good back and forth there. But I still stand by it. I've seen people become totally deracinated, and I'm going to be honest. Whoever even the Lotus Eaters, where they've sort of become like just another news cycle outlet. Because what it does is when Musk bought it, what did he say? Everyone becomes a journalist, but it's like actually all the news stories that happen on one day gets filtered down, 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 and down, and it's people that you listen to, people that you follow, that becomes like the overwhelming story. And a lot of these stories, quite frankly, are just bullshit. You know, I remember talking about the grooming gang stuff earlier. Um, when I had that back and forth and everyone, the following day, those very same people moved on to the next thing. And I remember thinking to myself, well, no, this is this is this is something which this is something that you cannot just pass off as like next story. But and this is sort of the behavior that's sort of come with this. This is like the sort of negative behavior I would say that's come from this. So yeah, you're gonna make a reply. Yeah, Andrew, you can make a reply to this. Um, did you actually, Andrew? Did you want to come on now? Do you want to join this here and have your reply here? Because I got time. I'll send you a invite. Yeah, I'll send you an invite, Iron Duke, so you can join me. So yeah, this is I mean, this is a bit different. But probably it's a bit difficult to get a full grasp of what you're saying, Iron Duke, probably in chat, or through series of chats with other people. So um, get rid of that. So yeah, I've sent it to Iron Duke, so hopefully you'll hop on soon. But yeah, that's my point. We may not. I may sort of do the other devil advocate and argue for it, or Iron Duke could probably argue for it. So I won't need to do a follow up to this. But it's something I've thought about for some time. And while this has been sort of going on in the ether in the background, I was sort of trying to see a sort of positive angle to this. The banning of X. Um, maybe more positive for me if you get rid of my own sort of addictive personality with the site. Um, it's what's worse. I don't know if anyone's noticed as well, but again, I remember whenever I was on X, I'd only see people that I follow, and the suggestions of others, other people who I didn't follow, um, would sometimes come up, but mainly people you follow. Now, I just it's random people names and commentators and other lot who I just don't know. And I very rarely see people that I follow, unless I get tagged in or I see several people tagged in. Hello, Iron Duke.
Yeah, good day, William. Listen, first of all, let me make something very clear. You're my friend. You're my mate. I've known you for years, and 90% plus of the time I agree with you. I've seen one other stream that you did, which I didn't agree with, and that was talking about that bloody medieval game.
Oh yeah. Well, which one's that actually? What was that? Crusader Kings?
No. You were the knight in it. I can't remember what it was called now. I'm not a big gamer.
Oh, is it? Oh, was it the Elder Scrolls one with Hitman?
No.
Oh.
No, it was the one because they had one thing. If you did something different, that you could do a gay sex thing. Do you remember?
Oh, oh bloody hell! Yeah, the Czech one, Kingdom Come.
Yeah.
I mean, like that was it. Yeah. I remember now. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the only other stream I've ever watched you do that I totally disagreed with you on. Kingdom Come Deliverance. Thank you, Bill Bauer, in the chat. But this one, I think you're wrong about, William. And like I say, you're my friend, you're my mate. You're always welcome on my streams. But I think you're making a mistake about this because if you do not have something like X stroke Twitter, you're going to find it very difficult to find people like Steve Laws, like Morgoth, like Rupert Lowe's rape gang inquiry in Britain. He won't be able to publish that almost anywhere because the so-called British elites, like two-tier Keir Starmer, they don't believe in free speech at all. And you know what? Yeah, I get why some British guys, particularly some British young guys, they get pissed off with Americans because, Americans can be annoying. They can be. I'm not an American. I'm an Englishman who lives in Australia. I'm not an American. I have American friends. Yes, I do. But I have American enemies too. And I have British friends and I have British enemies too. You've got to have some sort of realism in this stuff. And is MAGA or Musk some sort of perfect Englishman. Of course they're not. All right, of course they're not. Do I always agree with Donald Trump? No. Do I support Denmark over Greenland rather than the Americans? Yes, I do, 100% actually. To the extent that I'd send British troops to Denmark to say to the Americans, yeah, it's defended. Even though I wouldn't want to go there. It's not my idea of a nice place to go. I always liked tropical places, but, I'm a traditional Englishman. But anyway, all I would say is that, if you don't like someone on X, and there are many people I don't like on X, you can mute them, you can block them. Do that. And if you really still can't deal with X, then just don't be on X. I mean, the whole AI thing is just bollocks, because that's just going to become more and more common and more realistic as time goes on. That's all that's going to happen. And nothing that you or I or anybody else says is going to change that.
Okay,
But
so do you think though, Iron Duke, the future of, because this is this is what I meant when I said earlier, this is a double-edged sword, a want and the sort of gift and the curse. Never before the internet, right, Iron Duke, and because obviously you
I
definitely remember
remember
before the
that.
internet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
you remember
remember
it.
that.
If you wanted to join the British nationalist scene, it was incredibly difficult. You had to basically know somebody, or you had to find the right place, which
You had to
usually
know
meant,
somebody who knew somebody, basically. Yes.
yeah, basically. It was, today you just have to log on to, Facebook, social, whatever, anything you can find, or even on Google, and you can find something going on
Makes
near
it
you.
very easy for MI5, the CIA, every sort of Fed you can think of. Yeah, why is our Discord invitation only, William? It's because we've had a lesson in the past. You can't trust anyone, and this is true. But
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting you should trust X. All I'm trying to say is that if you are Steve Laws or Morgoth, or you're Rupert Lowe trying to publicize the results of your mostly Pakistani rape gang inquiry, just about the only place you can put that in public where anyone can see it is X. And if it's banned in Britain, all right, you will lose a few American assholes, but you know what? You'll be incredibly overpowered by the number of British assholes who will suddenly have more power. And you know what? I know good Americans and bad Americans, good British people and bad British people, good Australians and bad Australians. This is just the way of the world. And you know that.
No, I do, and to be honest, it's for me, it's what the Twitter algorithm has created, because I actually think, in some ways, the Twitter algorithm, it still targets genuine British nationalists and patriots in some degree. It still targets them, and it favors, what I would call liberals who LARP in our scene, who do not believe in this country.
For sure,
And do not.
for sure. People like Andrew Gold, for example. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. But
I mean,
the Steve Laws interview that you mentioned a couple of times,
yeah.
that was mostly on YouTube.
Yeah, but the reason he got to YouTube though was because of all his work and activism, and his and the thing is, I one thing that I don't know if this is what Andrew Goldstein was trying to do. If you remember, a couple of weeks before that interview, you had Nick Fuentes, who was that American podcaster, went on
You
Piers
mean
Morgan.
the Mexican guy with the Catboy boyfriend? Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Went on Piers Morgan, and that became like a very big, social media sort of thing, and that's whatever. But then immediately you had Steve Laws, and I think Goldstein was trying to maybe like project, like sort of present him as like the British Nick Fuentes, which of course he's not, because he's very different. He's not
But
he's
my
not
point,
more in that.
William, my point to you is not what Goldstein or Gold was trying to do. It is that it was mostly on YouTube, right? It was. I mean, it may well have been on X. I don't know. I didn't watch it on X. I watched it on YouTube. But the point is that was on YouTube because Goldstein, Gold, and also that fucking scumbag Piers Morgan is on YouTube, and YouTube
Yeah.
is never going to get rid of those guys. They'll get rid of you and me in a heartbeat, but not Gold, and not the other scumbag I just mentioned. My point is that if you're a more realistic and not such an arsehole nationalist, say you're a real nationalist, a real patriot, which I would regard both yourself and myself as, but also people like Morgoth, Steve Laws, probably Rupert Lowe, X gives you a platform. So why on earth is it a good thing to get rid of X? It's just not. I'm sorry.
Well, from my point of view, is I think X has become containment slop central. I think it's become
Heaps
too
of
much
that,
of a
mate.
content.
Heaps of it. Heaps of it. There is heaps of that on there. What particular platform are you thinking of that doesn't have heaps of that? Because I can't think of any.
I mean, I only use X, and social media wise, I use X and Facebook. I mean, Facebook
I've
itself.
never used Facebook in my life. That's what my grandma used to use. But okay.
I mean, Facebook is quite interesting because that used to be like, before Twitter really. It was obviously like a site where you had a lot of like the political discussions and all that stuff. But that was when you used that to use your own profile, so it was tamed. I mean, now on Facebook there is no that. It's just like, oh, has anyone seen my cat or something, or something like that. It's just like mundane, non-political. It's a non-political sort of thing, and
It's
maybe like
like
sharing.
it's like there's 1,000 videos on YouTube about funny cats. Yes, okay.
Yeah, it's basically that. Yeah.
But my point is this: like on X, and listen, I'm an Englishman. I'm an Englishman who lives in Australia, but I'm an Englishman, and you can block or mute anyone on X, and I frequently do. Like I just got in an argument with some women and a few men, because I said that the new head of the Red Arrows, who by the way is a woman, is a DEI hire. And I had women saying, explain in detail what you mean. And I just replied, no. Because if you need to explain that to someone, they don't deserve it. Explain to them, basically. And so I just block them. I mean, I don't understand your problem, William, in this sense. Because if someone says something that I like, if someone's a lefty, and there are many of them, and many of them are white, sadly, but if someone's a lefty, I just block them. I don't give a shit. And I follow, I don't know, less than 20 Americans on YouTube. Sorry, on X. I probably follow 60 British people. So when I look at my feed, it's mostly British. I get some American stuff for sure, because I have some American friends, but
I mean, it's not so much like the. I mean, the individual leftists and stuff like the most common one I see is like every now and when you get to sit around St. George's Day, he was a Turk and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, we're used to that. We see that every year. We're used to
And
it.
everyone who says that gets blocked. That's what I do.
Yeah,
If
but yeah,
anyone
yeah.
who says that, they just block because that's a
Well, I think
lefty
on
word.
my settings, I've on Twitter on my settings, I think I've got the term Saint George Turkish and in like one sentence as muted. So if anyone says that, I just won't see it now because I'm beyond. I believe people on the left do it to rage bait us, and I'm not going to give them any of my time and energy, on that point.
Good.
But one thing I am concerned at is the constant bombardment of slop. It will affect psychologically people, good people on the right, and it could lead them
How
down.
would you make it better, William? This is my point. See, look, I'm perfectly aware that you will get people who will say Judeo-Christian or something like that, right?
Hmm.
And I immediately am suspicious of anyone who says Judeo-Christian. Immediately.
Yeah.
But you can't control for that on an internet website. You just can't.
I mean, I understand what you mean. Yeah, that's like you have like telltale signs when people put out posts or something. If they say something that's like culturally English, right? That's another like because that's sort of like a giveaway telltale sign there.
Yeah,
Uh,
historically English is fine, but if you say culturally
or
English,
just
well,
or just English, or just
it
English.
depends.
Yeah,
No,
but
no, I think even that depends, to be honest. I mean, some things are culturally English, like,
no,
I don't know,
I think if they refer to
Boxing
like
Day.
I think they mean like people. Like if you refer to a person as culturally English, that's what I was more getting at
Oh,
there.
okay, right. Yeah, no,
If you
that's
say,
bullshit.
yeah,
Because you're racially English, but
yeah, that's sort of my point. And but
but again, how do you control for that on a social media site? I'm not sure. It's not that I get that you are trying to defend something you think that's worth defending, and that's why you're my friend, because you're right. English and British as a cultural and ethnical thing is worth defending. But I just think you're not right about if you got rid of X, that's not going to make Britain better. All it's going to make it is more of a drain hole run by Starmer and the so-called English elites. Or
yes,
British elites, I beg your pardon. They would never call themselves English, of course, but yeah.
no, they would refer to themselves as European or British or something like that. Yeah, true. I mean, I, I my overall concern is Labour and people we can't control what um we can't really sort of control what's going to happen government tomorrow or something like that. My point though is what the reason why I sort of made peace with the fact that and I said actually see the positive side in the banning of eggs is that I fear that collectively people, particularly on the British nationalist side, um aren't being contained by slop on one end and then totally sort of black pilled to in a ridiculous level where they end up having like this really like I guess become sort of distant from reality. And we've seen how the left has become in recent years distant from reality over very like niche topical talking points. um and I will say one of the things is unfortunately, I mean, when apart from Rupert Lowe, if you look at mainstream people who on the in the political scene, in Britain and in America and the commentators, a lot of them, unfortunately appear to be criminals, gays, constant liars, people who've apparently, I mean, there's one who's sort of somewhat admitted to a form of plagiarism or something like that.
Who are you talking about, William?
I think it was Ashley St. Clair or something like that. The one
Never
that's
heard of. Never
that's
heard of.
she was like part of the. Do you know Lauren Southern? You imagine you've heard Lauren
I've
Southern.
heard of Lauren Southern. Yes.
Yeah, Lauren Southern. Yeah. That sort of crowd.
Fortunately, I don't know her, but I've heard of her.
Yeah, and unfortunately, they're able to still have their influences, and but
again, William, I listen. I think you're slightly throwing out the baby with the bathwater. Yes, there are many things wrong with X. There are.
I mean, the
totally agree
algorithm
with
is
you.
broken. The algorithm is just totally broken, Iron Duke. It's ridiculous.
I don't know. Look, I'm interested in nationalism, history, patriotism, and the modern armed forces, and also the Royal Navy, and that's what appears on my X thread. When I log into X, that's what I see is stuff about that. If that's not what you're seeing, then I guess what you signed up for in X is probably wrong. I don't know. I mean, all right. I pay money for my X channel.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So that may make a difference, I guess.
Well, I guess I don't. So maybe if I did, it would change. But beforehand, though, I mean, if you say what my ideal scenario, which is to go back to X, basically.
Hang on, William. Just to let you know, most of the lefties I get in rows with these days are something to do with the modern British Armed Forces, and there are many, many lefties involved with those guys. There are huge numbers of feminists, male feminists, etc., involved with the modern British Armed Forces, which in itself is quite useful to know. All right, because most of your normal lefty feminists don't even make it onto my feed. But yeah, I see what you're saying, but I just think you want to cut off your arm to spite your face, because, like I said, if you want to follow really good people like Steve Laws, Morgoth, Rupert Lowe, Restore Britain, these good people, and you notice I didn't mention Nigel Farage. You need to be on X, because otherwise, how the hell do you follow them? Where else do you follow them? I mean, I know you've said Rumble, but nobody watches fucking Rumble,
Well, yeah. I mean, when it comes to rival social media sites, I mean, let's just say, regardless of what I want, let's just say X was banned tomorrow, there would be a period of chaos. I mean, we would know Morgoth has his Substack, which I'm subscribed to, so we could
do you
go there.
Do you reckon, William, that maybe if the British government was powerful enough to ban X in Britain, it might be powerful enough to ban Substack? Because I think that's what I would think. I would think, if I was such a scum anti-British filth as Two-Tier Care, if I could manage to ban X in Britain, I'd ban Substack immediately afterwards.
Yeah, you'd probably ban Substack. What's the one owned by Andrew Torber?
Oh yeah, I'm a member of that. Gab.
That's it. I mean, I guess that would be if we would. You remember our stream where we did the battle for Singapore, the fall of Singapore.
Yes.
And and you had the they didn't do like proper entrenchments and like series of retreats and everything. I guess maybe for us, for the British nationalist side, Gab would be the final thing, but that is a problem in itself because of course
William, I've been on Gab for 3.5 years now, and I've got less than 50 subscribers on Gab. That's how good that is.
Yeah. When they did the banning after about 5-6 years ago now, over the election stuff, and a lot of people were banned off social media. And they went and we had all that thing of like, and Trump, of course, he got banned, and other people right back along got banned.
Yeah.
I remember I opened up I think it was Parler and a Gab account. Because everyone was.
I vaguely remember Parler. That lasted a long time.
Yeah, that lasted, and again, I had probably better success on that. But I hated using Parler because I just found the layout and it just never worked. For notifications and messaging, it was awful. It was one of the worst things I've actually ever used, to be honest.
William, I tell you, mate, I worked out ages ago. If you want to get an audience, you've got to be on YouTube. And if you're not on YouTube, you've got to be on X or both. And that's what I do. And because part of what I hope for my channel is that young, white, Anglo-Celtic British guys realize, you know what, I'm not the only person who thinks that way. There are many others. There's Iron Duke, there's William Grenville, there's Mitch, there's Atterman, etc., etc. But you know what? You have to have a platform for those people to find it. And I'm sorry, can Elon Musk compared to two-tier care? There is no comparison. Elon Musk, as far as I'm concerned, who is a South African, although as Bede Britannia reminded me, he's also got a Canadian mother, I think. I'd take a South African Canadian over two-tier care any day of the week. You want to know?
I mean, just to go to someone in chat saying, wouldn't everyone just use a VPN anyway? I imagine. I mean, if I'm absolutely honest,
Yes.
the UK government has looked at banning VPNs. I mean, they've.
But you can't. You can't. William.
You couldn't. No, you couldn't anyway. But the thing though is,
the Chinese Communist Party has tried to ban VPNs, and the vile Chinese Communist Party, and trust me, I detest those people. They're much more powerful than two-tier care Stone.
Yeah, I mean, the thing though is I guess like do you remember last year that the government banned porn? They put like not banned, didn't ban it, but they put like an age restriction on accessing like Pornhub and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
and because of that, the people from the UK would go there. It went down like it was like down.
It didn't last long, William. It didn't.
No, because people got VPNs that wanted to go there, even though it was still lower than before.
You don't even need a VPN, William, to do that. You just need to use Mozilla or what's it called? The one that I use, which has a built-in VPN. Brave, they have built-in VPNs. You don't even need to use a VPN. It's insane. The idea that you can stop this stuff is just stupid. It's a bit like, you were talking earlier about AI. AI is just a thing, and it's going to get more and more widespread, and it's going to get better and better. And my guess is that within, I don't know, a dozen years, you're not even going to be able to tell it's a AI, to be honest.
Oh, I think that I've been seeing people do like produce like from books, from novels,
Yep.
recreating it in AI, and yet it's still clanky. But I give it another 2 years, and it will be there. You know, it will be
I
like
think it's going to take a little bit longer than that for those of us who watch lots of movies and can like check
old
things
bullet
in the
tell,
background.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it will take longer than that, but I reckon within a decade or so, you're not even going to be able to tell. And nothing any government does is going to change that at all. It's just technology. You could never put technology back in the box. Once it's out, that's it. It's out, you know?
Yeah, and that's something
And
that I think everyone, and not government, but like elites, have been worried about for a long time, because it's information. Every government, every regime wants to control information, right? They want to control the
yeah,
flow of
a
information.
100. And look, you know, to take it back to your original point about X, about Twitter, um, you know, people were getting upset because women were getting put in bikinis. You know what? Most of those women were
Well, they were asking for it anyway, but
they were video whores from what's it called, that fucking thing that
well,
these
OnlyFans or something.
OnlyFans. Yeah, they were video whores from OnlyFans.
Yeah,
So who cares? I don't care. You know, oh, a woman who puts naked pictures out gets put into a bikini by Grok. Well, that's a shame, isn't it? But you know, but eventually people got upset because, surprise, surprise, pedos decided that they were going to use this to make bikini pictures of tiny little girls. You know, like
yeah.
5-year-olds and 7-year-olds and 9-year-olds and all that shit. Well, there's a fucking surprise, eh?
But Duke. This is the best. This is the kicker. All those OnlyFan accounts, which a lot of them are bots, that I believe are bots. I don't think actually run by the people who claim they are. But
No
that's by the
idea,
by.
man. No
But
idea.
that's by the by. They all started literally like the same day. Like they'll post like an image of themselves, and it'd be like at Grok, put me in. And then of course you have people, people who will also, who like to follow those accounts because of some sort of pleasure following those accounts, will be like saying, oh yes, put her in the bikini, and then that ratcheted up to other people as well. And then suddenly, as you said, then the pedos got in on the gang. There was like 1 or 2 pedos who did that, and then suddenly that became like, um, uh, the casus belli for governments around the world, particularly
Yeah,
our government
it's an
and
excuse.
your government as well, Australia.
William, do
Well,
you
I
really
think it was a
think,
psyop. I think it was a
William,
psyop.
William, do you really think that two-tier Keir Starmer, who knows at least 2 Ukrainian rent boys far, far too well, do you really think he gives a shit about pedos or people looking at naked women? I don't think Sir Keir Starmer
No,
has the
no.
least interest in women. He likes Ukrainian rent boys, and there's ample proof of this. You know, I think even his family is a con, to be honest. But you
Yeah,
know,
I do think he feels threatened by Elon Musk for whatever reason. He
oh,
feels threatened
probably
by
because
X.
Elon Musk is more intelligent than he is. But you know, two-tier care sells people. He's never read a book that was not like a law book or something, never read a novel, and he has no internal dialogue. Like he never talks to himself in his head. Now, I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
I mean,
every normal human being I've ever met, I talk to myself in my head. I'm sure you do, William. Because we just do. That's how humans do things. You know, often before we say something, we'll have an internal dialogue. You know, apparently, Keir Starmer doesn't do that, but he does like Ukrainian rent boys, which is no great surprise to me. But you know, I watched him pretending to do boxing once, and he looked worse than my granny when she was about 70. But anyway, there you
Yeah.
go.
Well, but the thing is,
Sir Keir
he's
Starmer can wear a British Army uniform and make it look like a dress. Only he can do that.
yeah. Well, he's a Fabian, and as you find, Fabians are literally just empty, and even like the people on the left are like the actual genuine hardcore commies and Marxists and everything will pretty much say the exact same thing, that they are just you know, well, they'll say they're traitors. I mean, they'll say they're traitors to the cause. They sort of dilute the Marxist communist cause. But yeah, as I say, yeah. But I think he feels threatened by Musk. That's why. I mean, of course, nobody. I don't think anybody really believes, even in the BBC. If it's been pushed by the BBC, which it has in this country for like a couple of days now, they do. It's about bikinis on women and girls and everything. It's not that. It's not. No, absolutely not. That is the distraction for the masses and everything. And it's everyone. The thing is, everybody, all the news sites and commentators, like Jonathan Pye and all those other retards that we have lurking about in this country, on X and what have you, have already got their narratives. They got the exact same narratives, and everything else. So yeah, that's not the reason. Now I know Rupert, though, as we talked about, he came out very strong against this and said he would lead a demo against this if X was banned. I mean, I guess if X was to be banned, it would probably, and I think Aaron Hook said this. I think on maybe a short long term level, it wouldn't be so much the right. I think it'd be more people on the liberal side and the left side who would have more problems, because they're probably more addicted to X than people like us.
No, I'm not sure I agree with that, William.
I think they are. No, I honestly think, because I know they say, we go for Blue Sky. They go after Blue Sky, but I've been over at Blue Sky. There's nothing going on there. They'll slink off to Blue Sky, then slink back here to see what's going on.
I'd never go to Blue Sky because it's gay and left. But anyway, yeah, no, all I would say is that people talk about the Americans, and they talk about you did, I think, when you were talking about the stream, and you said individual freedom and free speech and all the rest of it. The Americans got their ideas of free speech, which used to be a real British thing until very recently, and of individual freedom from Great Britain. That's where it came from, because they were Englishmen. They were English and British guys, and England and Britain, compared to all the rest of Europe, had vastly more free speech and vastly more individual freedom. So I don't get why British guys suddenly think, the Americans think this is their deal, in which case we should turn around and say, oh, no, we don't agree with that. See, that's not true. The American ideas of free speech and individual freedom, they came from Britain. That's where they got them.
Yeah, true, 100%, and we had that until the community. I mean, it really started
until pre-recently.
Well, technically the first. I mean, if you wanted to talk about the first attack on free speech, it was the Race Relations Act. It prevented you from talking about or talking about race. I mean, as people like Enoch Powell and others found out about,
100, William, 100.
And yes, we had blasphemy laws, But the
We
blasphemy
did,
laws,
but
we
they
did.
were Christian blasphemy laws, which is fine.
Yeah, because the thing is, at that time, the Church of England, Church of Scotland, and what have you, actually represented the state, and when at a time when the state didn't, I wouldn't say go so far as represented people, but it represented in many people's eyes, the actual true Britain, the real Britain, the old Britain. And why shouldn't you? I mean, if listen, if we were
Britain is
governed,
a Christian country. Britain is a Christian country. So
yeah,
why should we not have Christian blasphemy laws? They
if
never
you were to go,
affected anybody. William,
no,
they would never have affected you. They would never have affected me or anyone in the chat because we're all Christians. So, or at least cultural Christians, even if we're not totally like Christians. You would never get into trouble in the old Britain because of the British blasphemy laws unless you were a Muslim or a Hindu or something like that,
yeah, sort of. I mean, if anything that sort of attacked or, um, there was any sort of uh, like not even like verbal, like a physical, like maybe if you damaged a, I think there was like when you had somebody damaged a Bible or something that there were occasions like that. You got to go back in the 19th,
Very,
eh,
very
18th century,
very
but
rarely, William. If you damaged like the cross on a church, then yeah, all right, you might get prosecuted. But you know what? I wish we'd bring that back because we've all seen Muslim immigrants knocking down crosses off churches. So
yeah, I would have no problem. And I know that a lot of the free speech types, who that's their whole like identity, say blasphemy. They sort of view blasphemy laws as something that's come in from the Islamic world, and of course that is not true. All
But
societies.
they were pretty mild, William. The Christian blasphemy laws in
Oh
Great
yeah.
Britain in say the late 19th or early 20th century, they were fairly mild. You had to be quite extreme to break them, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, but every society, even like pre-Christian and pre-Islamic, had some sort of some sort of law of blasphemy or what have you, where you couldn't attack like the state, because at that time the state religion would have been the actual key component of everyday life. I mean, even like the Roman Empire, but like well before it going, or Roman Republic, had various laws and stuff that would persecute some religions, which they like the Carthaginian religion, for example, which they viewed as a total antithesis to their faith and what have you.
Yeah, but if you go to the imperial period, basically, if you didn't piss off the imperial cult, which was, that Roman emperors became gods after they died,
Yeah,
generally the Romans left you alone, to be honest.
yeah.
But yeah, but that's taking us aside from what we're talking about. To go back to X, like as far as I'm concerned, like Elon Musk is by no means perfect. I love his idea of colonizing Mars. I'd love to see a man landed on Mars and then come back to Earth before I die. Don't know if I will, but I'd like to see it. I really would. But I don't like his transhumanism. But also, he's not really an American, as he's a South African with a Canadian mother. So, even that is not really an excuse to slag off Americans. And as I said earlier, there are just a lot more Americans than there are British people. So you are going to probably see more American views than you are British views. I don't really, but that's down to who I follow on X, you know?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, as I said, there is like for me, this is it's a double-edged sword because at the same time I I know that if this was banned tomorrow, the effects it would have would probably, I mean, it would. It wouldn't snuff out. Let's be honest. It wouldn't snuff out us. We would still go on. If it was banned, we figure it out. We'd find a way around it. We'd figure something out. We'd figure. All of us here would figure something else out to still communicate and do our thing. It would be annoying. It may take some time to get back on one's feet and what have you, but it would, it wouldn't totally, upend everything we're doing at the moment, like what I'm doing with the Pendragon castles and everything. But I mean, the thing is with the Pendragon stuff, yes, for on that level, it'd be disastrous because social media, like, that's what we need, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, if you're going to spread the word, you do
Yeah.
need social media. And like I said, back in the day, I didn't use X. I didn't use Twitter for a long time because I would have got banned immediately before Elon Musk took over. Okay, do I totally agree with Elon Musk? No, not at all. But is he a general supporter of free speech? Yeah, I think he is. And the more free speech in Great Britain and Australia, Canada, New Zealand, as well as the US and in Europe, the better, as far as I'm concerned. I don't see anything bad about that, really, to be honest, William.
Well, no, he's definitely got free speech, and that's definitely going on. I mean, forgetting about Elon Musk and the Americans and everything. If we just talk about the British right, the American right can just do what they want. If they want to do whatever, talk about whoever, that's up to them. Because at the end of the day, we're not American, and they can do what they want.
And they will anyway. So
and they will anyway. And they will anyway. I I know that we had our back and forth last year with the whole Portuguese thing, and I'm not going to rehash that thing. But at the end of the day, I don't want Britain and the British right to be serfs or slaves to someone else. I want us to be our own people with our own thing going on. I don't want us to be, have beholden to anybody else, because as British people, we should never be beholden to anybody else. We're not a race of slaves.
No.
And to that end, I that's I mean, yeah, I want a settlement where I can probably live with the AI. I could probably, maybe we can, tools will develop where we can get around it. But it is, I fear that too many people it can easily be subsumed by and succumb to the slop, and that's something maybe we need to figure out how to resist the slop, all the sort of slop stop, and actually see important things like Rupert Lowe's grooming gang inquiry, like um you know things that go on, because I don't want, I mean, I know our opponents will talk about the woke right, like the quote unquote woke right. I don't want a position where our side becomes so disconnected like those on the left did a few years ago, where we just become so disconnected from our own people and our own nations that, you know, we end up fulfilling woke rights, but not in the context that's there at the moment, but just become like kooky nuts jobs, if that. Yeah, and I'm not talking about
William,
us, because
William, look, all I'll say is this. First of all, thank you very much for having me on your stream. It shows you're not an arse, because if you have someone on your stream who's arguing against what you are saying, you're not an idiot. And I knew that anyway. That's why you're my friend. I would also say I have something I have to go and do now.
yeah, no worries.
But William, thank you very much for having me on your stream. And yeah, look, you know what? I think on the whole, X is a good thing for the British people, because we don't have free speech. I would also say that on Wednesday we should be doing British Conquest of Canada stream.
Yeah, tomorrow.
The French and Indian Wars, which is William's idea. And so come and join us for that.
Yeah.
And on that note, I'm going to have to leave you guys.
See you then, Iron Duke. See you then, Iron Duke. Yeah, I will wrap it up now, because as I got Iron Duke on here to just save him doing the reply video to this, sort of get him on here and have his say, and I get what he's saying, and yeah, as I say, it's double-edged sword at the moment. I mean, the current news thing at the moment is Iran. The restoration of the restoration of the monarchy stuff. I mean, all of that just appears totally fantasy. As me and Beda Britannia did a stream reacting to the look about a year ago now, probably over a year ago, the Crown Prince and his I think he even said he didn't want to return. So it's it just seems like just a bit of LARPy fantasy, to be honest. But that's like one of the things going on at the moment. Anyway, I mean that's the end of that. I was going to say the DR message is drowned out by the sound of keyboards clacking, mouse clicking, cans crackling, and lighter flickering. Yeah. Maybe that's why you have people who've gone to more real world. You have like the Witan, and you have the Pendragon, the Beowulf Foundation, and the Basket Weavers, because they found out that that there has to be something that you can do which is in the real world and actually has lasting impact and positive. And I mean, look, we did a stream on art. We talked about British art. How great was that? I mean, that was free of all sorts of slopulism, and everyone enjoyed it. It was really informative. Everyone loved it. It was very interesting. Positive stuff, So, I mean, for us, it's the things that we can do that are in our remit of control. But anyway, I'll leave it there. Tomorrow, yes, as Iron Duke said, we're going to talk about the conquest of Canada during the 7 Years' War. It's on Iron Duke's channel. I'll be using notes particularly from Captain Cook's diary, who was present during the siege of Louisbourg and the various raids and stuff along the entrance to the St. Lawrence. So do check that out. It should be good. But apart from that, everyone in chat, thank you for joining. With Aaron Hook, my condolences as well, because I know a friend of yours recently passed away, Sean. So yeah, my condolences to you, and sort of pray for Sean. I don't know if he had any family, but condolences to them as well. I was going to say. Yeah, thanks for condensing. What's that with the clicking, not the clicking mouse? Anyway, thank you everyone, and I will see you all next time. I'll see you all tomorrow on Iron Duke's channel.